Good afternoon, students, to whichever part of the globe you belong to or whichever part of the country you belong to. In fact, we are right in the second half or the last part of our module that we are covering on business environment. And I hope in the last 5 lectures or 5 sessions that we had, I believe that you have gone through the module, you have kind of introspected about it, understood few concepts about business or business environment. And I also believe that you had been had some queries that you want to ask, and I'm sure you might have written or dropped a mail at ISBN. If suppose if you have not, please drop a mail, because at ISBN we have lots of case studies related to any specific area that we want to address. Let me tell you honestly, students, at ISBM it is not only about just the degree, it's about what kind of value additions are you bringing about is what ISBM primarily is in the forefront. So do drop a mail or a query regarding any reports, any examples that you want to express, share your opinion on the subject. It's most welcome. Okay, let's take, as we usually do, let's take a quick recap of what we have done from the beginning till now. What we have done is we have first defined what is business. We have also defined what is environment. We have also kind of dealt with both these things and got it together. This is what we have done, and also we have looked into what are the environmental factors that influence business. So the environmental factors that influence business, we have kind of dealt with are the technological factors, the demographic factors, the actual environmental or natural factors. We have also looked into the legal factors, the political factors, the cultural factors. Now, these all factors influence the business, and we also kind of discussed till now there are one that are internal factors and the other are external factors. So when we say internal factors, those are the factors that deal with that the company has complete control about it, the internal factors, and those are, for example, the mission, the mission, the value statement, the strategies the companies adopt, the kind of products they want to manufacture. They are all within the purview or within the gambit of the organization. And the thing that is beyond the control or beyond what the organization has influence about to a great extent are the factors of technological things, political conditions, the legal domains of whichever country they are into, the demographic factors, the cultural factors. These are the factors that the company needs to adopt. Now understand, students, in today's cutthroat kind of competition, it is so very important that we kind of relate to people as well. Now, if we are doing a business in multiple countries, if you are an MNC or a multinational company or a transnational company, you might have a similar product with the kind of breadth and depth of the product, but then your marketing strategies, your positioning strategies, the timing, the kind of resources that you use, these all has to vary based on the country or the place that it is being promoted or marketed as. And we have seen through lots of factors that influence, right from the age bracket, the economical conditions. Suppose if there's a political turmoil, we know it's a difficult proposition then, isn't it? We know also the cultural influence. Now, the kind of team spirit that you will find in organization in Asian countries are very different from, say, European countries or maybe US, where it is more of a singular, they are more silo oriented or individual oriented. So then, based on the strategic standpoint of view, these things change as well. So now in today's session, what we are going to do, we will devote a major chunk of our session on one of the elements which we deal in business environment is corporate governance. Now, almost 3/4, around 1 hour 45 minutes we'll spend on this subject, and if time permits, if we get substantial time, we will also get into the module of business ethics as well. So when we say of corporate governance, it is very much a part of business environment, number one. But when we speak of corporate governance, it is primarily made up of two words, correct? One is a corporate, that means the organization. Now, when we say here corporate includes the private sector organizations and the PSUs as well, public sector units that we spoke about Navratnas, Mini-Ratnas and the Maharatnas. So here corporates includes the PSUs as well as the government, the non-government organization or the private organization. Governance. Now what does governance means? Governance comes from the word to govern or to conduct or to operate. Now, when we are living in a highly dynamic kind of business environment, it is very important and relevant how do you kind of manage the business on a day-to-day functions. Now, why corporate governance has become so very critical and crucial is because certain example right from the story of Enron, or if you are speaking from an Indian perspective, Satyam Computers. Now it was among the top 3 IT companies in India, but just because the ethics or standards were not met in terms of ethical moral values, the company doesn't exist today. Top 3 companies that we are referring to. So it also means when we are speaking from a business environment perspective, we need to understand that whenever we are running business, yes, there are so many factors involved that we spoke about, correct? Demographic, political, social, cultural, legal factors. But also one of the factors which kind of underlays the foundation of any business to run is how do you govern it? How do you operate it? And here also we will kind of go hand in glove with the other topic along, that's about ethics as well. Now when we speak of corporate governance, it's about how the organization need to run. Now when we say running of the organization, it's on 2 fronts. Now we'll speak of performance management as well. 2, what kind of value system we attach to do business, that's about to make profits as well. So we'll speak about all these elements. Now when I was speaking about Enron, now Enron came as a big time project in India. Now Enron, with gross mismanagement of the policies and procedures, the company just has to wind up operations in India. So it's also about, apart from the other factors, it is also about what kind of internal operation system that you have, which are in align with these external factors is what we will look into. Great. So when we want to overview the presentation, it's primarily about concepts and activities. When we say of concepts, we look into the management and strategy, and when we say of activities, includes research, and evaluation. So when we look at a closer look, we'll kind of dig deep, we'll kind of find, we are first going to the bird's eye view. You know what's a bird's eye view? Bird's eye view is we get a top end view of a bird, of how things are, and then kind of drill down and get into the smaller details. Understand, as students, there are two views we always need to understand. Since you are going to the future CEOs of the organization or top rung managers of the organization, these two views are crucial. One, the bird's eye view. Bird's eye, what does a bird's eye view give? Bird's eye view gives a holistic representation or a systematic view about the entire landscape of the things. And the opposite of a bird's eye view is a worm's eye view. Now that's what in commonly we called it attention to details. Now one is a bird's eye view, the other is called a worm's eye view. We get into details. Now a question to you students, tell me, as managers, you should have a bird's eye view or the worm's eye view. What's your think or what's your take on it? So the point is that if you want to become a successful manager and move fast in the organization you are working for, or even become an entrepreneur in forthcoming days, we need to understand you need to have both views, one the bird's eye view and the worm's eye view as well. Now what I have done till now in the last 10 minutes or so, I've given a bird's eye view about how are we kind of taking the corporate governance as a subject. Now we get into details, we get into the micro details or the attention to details as well. That's how we will proceed. Okay, when we speak of corporate governance, it consists of processes, customs, policies and procedures of a firm as well as the governing body that is responsible for its direction, management and control. So we are looking at all these things, processes, customs, policies and procedures is what we are looking from a corporate governance angle. Now we need to understand, so it includes the operating things. Now important keywords over here are processes, customs, policies and procedures is what corporate governance includes, as well as the governing body who is responsible to kind of operate the entire processes is corporate governance. Now it should balance the interest of, now why a corporate governance is essential? Because it balances the interest of customers, employees, managers, owners and other stakeholders. Now when we were discussing in the first session of business environment, we mentioned that the entire purpose or the prime purpose of doing business is to make profits, correct? If you remember. Now as an organization, if profits is the only motive behind doing business, then let me tell you, in a long period of time they will struggle. If you are not in today's world customer centric, now they say that gone are the days of customer satisfaction. Today we are living in an era of customer delight. It's about walking that extra mile. It's about what can you do extra beyond the call of the duty is what the customers are looking forward to. So an organization not only needs to make profits, we are not saying that it should not make profits. Without profits they can't sustain and survive. But beyond making profits, are they customer centric? Now when I say customer centric, it means that are they looking from what the customer needs and wants are? Two, are they looking, when we say of customers, we are not speaking only of the external customer. We are also speaking of the internal customer. That means, are the internal employees taken care of? So very important. And let me tell you, this concept of valuing the internal customers has come up very strongly or thick and fast in the last 30-40 years or so. Earlier, when we spoke about customer, it was always meant that it's an external customer. But you find all CEOs, right from Richard Branson, the Virginia Alliance, he mentions that you need to treat your internal employees well. Then only they will treat the external employees well. And a lot of CEOs have expressed their thoughts and concerns in a similar direction. So when we say of corporate governance, it also means that are we taking care of the internal employees? That means uh, proper pay on time. That means good incentives, good culture, giving a place to work where they have flexibility in terms of work hours. They feel happy, they feel trusted when you are working for an organization. Understand, students, that a person in his working age spends almost 8 to 10 hours a day uh, with within the organizational space or the workstation. Now that's a huge chunk of hours. That is sometimes more than the family. So if that is a chunk of size or hours that the person is spending at the workstation, that also means that he should feel comfortable and feel happy about it. Because if an internal employee himself is kind of disgruntled about it, it will not work out that way. So very important to understand. And it's also about the other stakeholders as well. Now let's take an example. Let's take an example of Ola Cabs. Now Ola Cabs has a market share of close to 70-75% in India. That's some size. That is some size. In spite of competitions from Meru, from Uber, the Tap Cabs, and so on and so forth, and a lot of local players as well. So what Ola is doing as well, their external customers are the people who take the cab or book the cab. One, they take care of that by the lower pricing strategy. Two, they're also looking for the internal employees' perspective as well. Now, when we say other stakeholders, for Ola, that means they need to take care of the drivers as well. Now, understand, Ola is just a platform, isn't it? An online virtual platform where you can book a cab. You have the entire cycle of the sales happening on the virtual platform. So when we are speaking from perspective of stakeholder, from an Ola perspective, it means they are designing new strategies also for the drivers as well. And that's so very important, because he, at the end of the day, for Ola, is the brand ambassador for Ola, isn't it? Now, a driver of Ola is not an employee. He is not an internal employee. He is a kind of stakeholder. But suppose if that driver who is representing the service provider, Ola for example in this case, is a brand ambassador. That means the way he talks to the external customer reflects the image of Ola, and that will only come when he himself is happy. So there's a natural rub-off effect that goes to the external client as well. So when we speak about corporate governance, we are also speaking about customer, employees, managers, owners, and also other stakeholders. So when we say governing body, so what does governing body consist of? It consists of stockholders, it consists of management who run the business, it also consists of board of directors. Now they don't, if you see, the governing body doesn't consist of lower rung workers or line managers or middle level management as well. Why? Because they don't govern it, they are just the implementers. Now this body is actually who governs the entire show. Okay, there we go. When we speak of corporate governance, now we saw that It's also the governing body consists of stakeholders. The management part is what they create. Now, when we say corporate governance, if you look into the still micro details about it, this is what we are looking forward. We look forward for leadership. What kind of leadership is there? What kind of processes are being followed? What kind of customs are being adopted? What kind of policies are being enrolled? Now, why policies? Because if an internal employee need to be groomed or supported, strong HR policies has to be there, isn't it? So it's about policies, the procedures, the kind of day-to-day scheduling, be it in terms of the reports to be sent, the code of conduct. The code of conduct is a procedure where a person needs to follow or adhere to the rules as well. So when we speak of corporate governance, it's about leadership, processes, customs, policies, and procedures. Now, if you say governance is anchored through certain tools or certain channels, and those are primarily three, we call it the VMS. V standing for vision, M in VMS standing for mission, and S for strategies. So when we say of governance, we are taking care of these three factors: the vision, mission, and strategy. The vision and mission. Now, if you see, the mission and mission statements are anchors. Now, what are anchors? Anchors are something that gives you a kind of impulse very fast. Now, the mission statement, what does it communicate? It communicates what a firm wants to be. If you log into any company's website, all companies' website have the vision, mission, value proposition. If you go even to ISBM's website, you will find the company's vision, mission, and values. Now, what are these vision, mission? They are guiding forces or they are directional forces which kind of show to the person concerned. So, it communicates what a firm's want to be. Two, it communicates what the firm does. Now, not only where they want to achieve or go, but also what they want to do as well. What the firm does to achieve that. So, they're looking into the activities, the procedures laid across as well. It provides a stable identity analogous to a nation's constitution. So, very important. Now, stable identity. Now, if you see, a lot of organization just through a tagline, they define what they stand for, and that is in alignment with the company's vision and mission. For example, Apple, the tagline that they associate is think different, and that's the reason why what Apple has done throughout years, in the 50 years or so, they have always propounded for creativity. Think different. It's about creativity. So with the tagline itself, they want to send the right message about what they want to stand for. So it's about the kind of identity and also analogous to what the nation's constitution are as well. It expresses the firm's values and beliefs about its responsibility as a corporate citizen. So it's also about what kind of beliefs and values the company holds by, or what kind of passion. For example, Nike, just do it. Now Nike are into a business of producing shoes or sports article, and they know the tagline for them is just do it. It's about being a more action oriented. So more action definitely is aligned with the values of the sports person. Clarify the purpose of the organization. Now it also clarifies what kind of vision the company has in the future, What are they looking forward to as well? It helps employees bond with the firm and set a context for understanding management, decisions, and actions. So if they have any dispute or any kind of differences to come out, they kind of figure it out what they want to do about it. The vision. Now, if you see, vision statement should be inspiring. Now, VMS is what we're speaking of, the vision, mission, and strategy. So, when we say vision, it should be inspiring and a highlight a firm's aspiration and values. Now, they say that vision in itself could never be achieved. They are the kind of guiding force. They are kind of a leading light about what the company wants to go about it, the direction. For example, a lot of companies, certain companies' vision statement is they want to become the best innovative company. Now tell me students, best innovative company, can it be achieved or it's a journey? You'll figure out that it's a journey because innovation itself is dynamic. So it's a kind of journey. So we need to understand that when we speak of vision, vision in itself could never be achieved. It's a kind of process. It should be uplifting and evoke positive emotion. Now, they are kind of motivators. The vision statements are normally motivators. They kind of uplift people to do better performance, for excellence. It defines what a firm wants to be. They're looking forward to what the company, where are they at this point of time, and where they want to be maybe after 10 years, 20 years is what they are looking forward to. So when we say mission, mission is the direction that they want to lead, where they want to be. Now let's discuss about mission. If you see, mission is the firm's mission statement clarifies where the firm will focus its attention and highlights its core values and beliefs. Now, vision is the direction, correct? Mission are the steps, are the short steps or short milestone that the company wants to undertake in small measures. So mission can also be related to goals. It may emphasize how and why the company plans to compete in specific areas as well. In brief, it clarifies what a firm does, is what mission is. Strategy. Now, firm's strategy is the TMTs. Now, what does TMT stand for here? TMT stands for top managing teams. Now, top managing teams is a very highly evolved concept in the last decade or so. We know that for any organization to excel, to thrive in this cutthroat business competition, we need a dynamic team right at the top who are visionaries, who are strategic makers, who are creative, who are dynamic, who can think different as well, who are motivators. They form TMT. Now, when we say top managing teams are the top brass of the organization. They design the outlay. They keep on evolving and changing the outlook of where they want to lead as well. So, a firm's strategy is the TMTs, how to plan for fulfilling the organization's mission and accomplish its mission or goals and objectives. So what a TMT does or top management team does, which could involve the team of marketing heads, the strategic heads, the HR heads, they form a team of TMT, and they then channelize based on what the vision is and what the mission or goals are. They design a path how to go about it. The strategic plan is a detailed document outlining specific courses of action, each with precision and an exact timeline. Now, what does this do? They have a detailed plan. Now, it is not enough that the organization just have a vision or the goals also. Now, when we are speaking of strategy, it's about the tactics, the short-term plans that the company needs to adopt with time frames, with deadlines about, okay, in this financial year or in this quarter, these are the activities we need to enroll or roll out, or these are the methodologies that we need to do when we are going about it. It is a map for achieving competitiveness, and these tactics or strategies are flexible. So that means that they keep on changing. For example, in India, suppose if it's a company's marketing or having its presence strong, they need to be very clear about what kind of seasonal cycles they have. Now, for example, if the company is into making books, say for example Navneet Publications or Camlin, which they are into stationery materials, or ITC, for example, they have recently came out with stationery materials. Now, if a company is working in this kind of domain, they need to be aware that the products that they sell are cyclic in nature, are seasonal in nature. That means when we are speaking of a June, July, August kind of month, they are the peak times for them, because that's where the schools reopen, colleges reopen. That's when the maximum purchases need to happen. So the tactics that these companies should adopt, or that they need to adopt, would be give first, the distribution channel need to be strong. They need to have high inventories during this phase. They need to have more discount mechanisms, more channel partners to market their product. Then we get into a patch where the education, the cycle of the education goes into a routine thing, and there are periods when, for example, March to June or March to April, these are lean periods. Now, lean periods means generally the business angle doesn't go on, because all schools and colleges are on leave, isn't it? Now, these are the periods, if you are a strategic business head of these kind of companies, and if they are planning training for them or soft skill development for them or grooming from them, these are the time when they should invest, because their business generally is less during this period. So when we speak of strategies, it's about aligning to these things. Now, this is one example that we spoke about in terms of timing, but there are other factors as well. It's about resources, it's about budget allocation, it's about people management, it's about leadership, it's about succession planning, it's about waste management, it's about so many things. So when we speak of TMT, they are the top managing teams. They align their strategies or tactics based on it. It emphasizes its performance objective. Now, strategies definitely are looking from a performance perspective. Okay, so when we say performance objective, there are a few things that we need to highlight. Now, TMTs guide their firms to the achievement of performance objective. Now, what are the guiding forces through which the TMT sets in? They are motivating the firm's employees. They're looking forward for motivating the employees. Important for performance? Yes. Now, this is an internal customer for the organization. Energizing and leveraging value producing resources. So we are looking at how to energize the system as well, how we can look forward to energize as well, give high value added resources. Developing basic, core and distinctive competitiveness is also that we are looking forward to from a performance perspective. If you see performance objective ladder, they are being strategically competitive. It's about sustained by competition and also recurrent above average returns, or RAR is what we call it as. So it's about being competitive first. Two, can you sustain the competition? And three, are you above the global index in terms of are you above the break even on a consistent basis as far as market competitiveness is concerned? So one, we say that we need to be competitive. Two, are you sustained enough? Now a lot of time, just to gain more market share, people might drop down their profit margins. Correct? Now understand, if for growth, you might lessen your profit. Correct? And sometimes it is you are not even reaching the break even point because you want a more market share, or you are cutting down your profits. Now if this happens for a longer period of time, then there is a chance that the organization might lack resources of the actual economy or money as well. Now if this is the case, it's a huge dilemma for the organization, like how much to focus on a good cash reserve ratio and how much to invest in growth. Now these depends on various parameters, right? The things that we discussed, from the economic environment, political environment, legal environment. Now all these factors, the governing body or the corporate governance takes into account. So when we speak of strategic competitiveness, so we'll discuss all these three elements one by one. So when we say of strategic competitiveness, it is the result of a unique business competitiveness that enables the firm to perform activities more effectively and efficiently than rivals. Now, how do you define effectiveness and efficiency? Now, they say that for running a business, both are essential: effectiveness and efficiency. Now, how do you separate it out, or how do you define that out? When we say effectiveness, it's about producing results. Are you effective? Now, what does efficiency mean? Efficiency means another factor of time comes in. That means, are you able to produce same results in lesser amount of time? For example, an organization manufactures 100 tons of rubber in a week, say for example. That's about effectiveness. That was the target, 100 tons of rubber. But if now an organization, because of its technological innovation, the R&D measures, they could now produce the same 100 tons now in just 4 days. Now when we reduce the time required to produce the same measure, that's about being efficient. So effectiveness and efficiency both factor in as far as strategic competitiveness is concerned. It is the first rung on the performance objective ladder. Very important is the source fuel. It means the firm is able to earn disproportionately higher profits than its competitors. Important that if an organization need to excel in an environment, they kind of need to excel and grow above the market. Now that's the reason for all organizations, they factor in what is the growth rate of the market. So for example, if it's a pharma company, let's take Cipla as an example. Now, pharma market normally grows at a rate of around 7 to 9% is what the normal growth rates are. Now, if you're an organization part of TMT or the top managing teams, they look forward to, are we growing above the market? Now, what does growing above the market mean? It means that they would plan their budgets based on forecasting that if a market is expected to grow at 10%, they will plan that can they grow at 15 to 18%. You might ask why. That means that if a market is growing at 10%, are we planning ahead? If we are growing above the market, that means we are leading the market in major sectors. It also means that we are defining the market as well with new products, with new product introductions. Now, these are of immense value because it also means that you have a major market share as well. That also means that you have a major say in the marketplace as well. That also means you are a predominant market leader in the segment that you are operating. It means that it suggests firms has a competitive advantage over rival firms as well. So when we say if a company is into a manufacturing company, for example, can you also reduce down the cost of whatever you are producing? Now, if you can, one, when we say of efficiency, can you produce the same thing in less time? One. Two, can you produce the same thing in less cost? Now, is that value adding? Yes, for sure. Because, and that's the reason people invest in so many R&D measures. Now, what R&D measures gives is they kind of prepare a new reverse process engineering where they can shorten the entire manufacturing time that a product needs to be produced. So if they reduce the time and the cost both, is highly efficient, and they can pass these benefit to the customer as well, be it the middle customer or the end customer. So when we say of strategic competitiveness, it's about speaking about, are you effective and efficient? Are you doing better than the market and the rival competitors? Okay, we'll speak about sustainable competitive advantage. So we don't want only to be market competitive. We also want, can you sustain some length of time? If you see any sector, now that's a good homework that you can do. Check out any industry. Say for example, check out mobile service providing industry. Now figure out from 2000, 2010 and 2010 till now, which are the top 3 companies that existed then and in the last 6 years. 2000 to 2010, one period, and 2011 to 16. Are the top 3 companies same or different? Now you'll find that a lot of time based on industry specificity, they change a lot because the dynamics change as well. But market leaders remain the same a lot of time. So when we speak of sustainable, what does sustainable mean? It means that achieving a sustainable competitive advantage means a firm has discovered a method of continuously performing its value generating activities more effectively and efficiently than its rivals. Now understand, what happens in a decade is lot of changes happen, technological changes happen, the customer needs and want changes, the taste and preferences changes, the generation itself is kind of different than what you catered to a decade back. In spite of all these changes, have you kept pace with things? Are you giving the same value that you used to give before? And are you in the top of the mind of the customer? Is what will define sustainability. Sustainable competitive advantage is a second rung on the competitive ladder. It means it means commercial staying power. That means, have you got enough resources at your hand that you are there? Okay, we move on. The recurrent above average returns, or RAR as it is called more commonly. The understandable recurrent, what does recurrent mean? Time and again. Above average in what? above average than market competition returns. So this is one of a global index people use, that are you, and when you say of the recurrent above average returns, it's a kind of scale which are different for different organization. And when we say above average returns are desirable to investors, since they indicate the firm is a better than the average investment. Now understand, in today's world we need resources. Like in today's last week's news, when we speak about cab operators, now Uber got a big time fund from Dubai based company, and so is Ola doing as well. So we need today investors. Any organization, if they want to grow, they need to invest money. And this investment of money is coming from investors, isn't it? Now what investors look forward to is R. That means if I am investing money on the organization, would I get returns on a consistent basis over a period of time? I am not looking for 2 months, 1 year, 2 years. A big time investor, when we speak of the foreign investors, we are looking forward for a long-term return, and they look for the scale of RR. So above average returns are those that exceed what investors would normally expect to achieve on similar risk investment. Understand that when you are investing money, it's always a risk, because you never know how much is going to come back. And because there's a risk of element, there's always a growth element attached to it as well. So they say no risk, no gain, isn't it? So that means in a business dynamic, you know, business itself is a risk, isn't it? But you know, if you're risking your money, but that also means there's a possibility and probability if your systems are in place, you might get a higher returns as well. The ultimate objective is to implement a strategy that enables these RAR to be recurrent. So the objective is how we can sustain this RAR scale or recurrent above average returns on a longer period of time. That includes your investment in R&D. That includes how much of technological progress are you doing, so that you constantly evolve, innovate, and give better products to your customer. It also means that your database management system is good. It means that your market intelligence is good. It means that you know your customers in and out. That means your KYC or know your customer, he's coming from a very good background. It means that your customer satisfaction is good, because you know your customers well and you're also delivering that value proposition as well in terms of your products or services. It includes all those. RAR is a third rung on the performance objective ladder. 3 aspects. One is the strategic the performance. 2, we speak about sustained performance, and 3, the RAR scale are important when you speak of a business performance. When you say recurrent above average returns or RAR are earned only by firms that have achieved and sustained a competitive advantage for an extended period of time. And this is so very important to understand. Now, above average returns and strategic levels, how are they connected as well? Now, if you say competitive advantage, above average returns and strategic levels, how are they connected? Now, if you see a business level, there are 2 levels that are important to address. One, the business level, and the other, the conglomerate level. 2 levels also with difference in thinking patterns as well. Let's look at the business level. Now, competitive advantage and above average returns of a business strategic level is high profit plus satisfied customer. The objective at a business level is clear. 2, 1, we should have profits. 2, we should have a happy, satisfied customer. That's very clear when we're speaking of business level. So what are two factors in a business level? One, have profits, and two, a satisfied customer. When looking from a conglomerate level, what is conglomerate level? Bird's eye view. We're looking not only as a business function, but also looking business from a larger perspective. That means one good question, if you're an entrepreneur, you should always ask, and that's a conglomerate level question, and that is, after 10 years, whatever you are selling or delivering as a product or service, would it still be required? Is a good question to ask, and that's a conglomerate question. It's also either TMT model or top performing managed question. So in a conglomerate model, understand not all that we require now we would require 10 years later. They will change, they will differ, they will evolve, they will innovate. All will change. Now visionaries or top management teams should always have this visionary thinking or radical thinking, if I am to call it, or strategic thinking, if I am to call it. That today what we require, what will be required 10 years down the line? And that's what visionary thinkers do or leaders do. They think, what do I require 10 years from now on? Whatever I am offering the product now, would it remain the same? Now, today, let's take today's product that we are using now. Now, 20 years back, nobody would have thought water would be sold, but Bisleri did it, isn't it? So 20 years from now, you never know, air will be sold as well as oxygen cylinders. You never know, because the kind of pollution level it's there, it's highly there. You see data packs. The way we use mobiles these days, it's not just a call. The entire world has come to a mobile phone. That includes your data application, the calculator, the camera, with lots of apps. It's a news channel. It gives a sports update. It has everything, which we could not have thought 10 years back. 10 years back also mobiles were there. Yes, but it was way more related to a voice call or maybe a message, isn't it? But 10 years, things changed dramatically, and so did the market. So when we are looking from a conglomerate level, it's about competitive advantage and above average returns at the conglomerate strategic level. That means successful and synergistic subsidiaries businesses. That means today what I am doing, can I acquire or can I have a JV or a joint venture with some other organization looking into the future, is what conglomerate level looks up to. Conglomerate level strategy is also called corporate level strategies as well. Okay, so we will look into the few performance theoretical models as well as we go through. Okay, so performance theoretical model there are conflicting theories about the primary factors dictating the firm's success or failure in achieving RAR. Now there are few theories that are being propounded in a business environment, and a few are conflicting as well, but they are very interesting to note as well. Now, few questions that we should address is performance primarily dependent upon a firm's competencies and leadership? That's one. One question that we are asking is, are the performance of any organization, is it solely dependent on leadership or strategies, or is performance primarily related to the industry in which the firm competes? So one we are looking at, is the firm only responsible from an internal environment process, or that firm succeeds but the external factors are predominant? Now what is that? So the conflicting ideas and categories as the resource-based view. There are two views that we'll speak about. One, the resource-based view, and two, the industry or organizational view. Now, if you are more interested to look into these aspects of how much of external environment influences, please read the book of Malcolm Gladwin, The Outliers. Now, Outliers gives a good insight about how external factors do influence the organization. So, two things. One, resource-based view means whatever resource we have to run the business, and two, the organizational context view of the other factors. So, one, the resource-based view, the internal factors, or the RB model as it is more commonly called. Now, assumptions of the RB model are: one, performance objectives are dictated by the firm's unique resources and capabilities. It assumes that for an organization performance, resources and capabilities are important. Two, the internal environment, that means a firm's physical, financial, intangible, intellectual and leadership resources will determine the degree of its success. Now, it strongly emphasizes or lays thrust on the importance that if an organization has to do well, then it has to do a lot with its resources. Resources means the people resource, the financial resource, the technological resource, the leadership it has. That will determine its success. This model strongly propounds that. It means all the internal things. In other words, it is not so much the industry that dictates. It does not depend, according to this model, it says that the industry which you are in, it's not dependent on that. The firm's ability to produce above average returns, as it is the ability to compete within that industry. So it propounds the theory that a lot is dependent on the internal factors or the internal resources. So lot of focus needs to be there on these internal factors than on when the industry is. See, for example, we know the fastest growing industry in the world is the IT industry, correct? Now, this theory propounds that it is not important that to become a successful company, you need not necessarily need to be an IT company or an IT accessory company, even to be the fastest growing. If you have a strong process in place, if you have a strong visionary leadership, if you have good strategic planning, irrespective of industries, you will do well to perform well. For example, and there are a few examples of this kind. For example, a coaching industry. Now, coaching is a very nascent industry, very small as well. But people who are in coaching as an industry, as companies, they say they are the fastest growing. Not only individual company, but they drive the sector as well. So, education industry, for example, education industry as an industry might not be the fastest growing, but as an organization, people grow within the organizational context. So this view propounds that if a company needs to grow well or become more competitive, it doesn't matter which industry you belong to. If your leadership is good, if your resources are strong. The second view is the polar opposite of the earlier one. That means it propounds the theory of industry, the OB view, the IO view, that is the industry organizational view. It means that the assumption, now understand, any model has assumption that we need to assume certain things to be true. And the assumptions of the IO model are: external environment imposes pressure and constraint that determines strategies leading to above average returns. It lays a lot of emphasis on external factors. That means if you are in the right kind of industry, the growing industries, then for you it is easier to grow. That's what it assumes. Most firms competing in an industry control similar strategically relevant resource and pursue similar strategies. So if you are in an industry where the industry is growing, then even if there are many competitors, it's easier for you to have the good raw skills. Because there you are very competitive. 3. Resources used to implement strategies are highly mobile across firms. It assumes that if you're in the right kind of industry, you will get resource, even for people for that matter. If you are in IT industry, for example, the highest growing industry on that huge base. Now, if you are a growing industry, you will not find challenge of resource, be it people resource for that matter. If you pay well, people will come in. So you will not find, the assumption is the resource will not be a challenge. Although a firm's physical, financial, intangible, intellectual, and leadership resources are important, it is primarily the industry in which it competes that will determine the degree of its success. So that's very important. It says that in spite of whatever background you have in terms of your technological innovation, physical resources, the industry in which it is there will define how do we grow. In other words, it is the industry that dictates the firm's ability to produce the above average return. So two different models. One, the resource based model, and the two, the industry or the organizational model. Now, when you are looking at TMT's competencies or top managing teams competencies, from RB model to the IO model, the competent TMC. So we are looking into what are certain competencies which are essential to become a successful organization. Okay. So when we say that, when we are looking at managerial competency, 3 competencies are essential. 1, knowledge, skill, and ability. The knowledge, skill, and ability are the managerial competencies that are required. So if you see, literacy is equal to knowledge when we are looking at the concept understanding perspective. So managerial literacy, when you're looking from a TMT's level, suggests a highly refined knowledge of managing people and strategies. So they say that if you want to be market competitive, your people need to have knowledge about the product, the market, the customer, about people management, about the market, about competitors, about knowledge about how to forecast business. So knowledge is essential. TMT literacy encompasses knowledge of contemporary theories and practices of the effective deployment of intellectual, physical, and financial resources as well. TMTs are expected to have extensive knowledge of corporate finance and accounting as well. Understand, it is so very important that you should have a good financial backup. Not only backup, but knowledge about how to use your finances. When to pump in money in the market, when to withdraw from the market. So this financial understanding and the rules of accounting as well are so very important when you look at from a competency perspective. There are 8 specific spheres of business literacy. So when we say if you want to become an entrepreneur or if you want to become a very good managerial competency to have to run the business, or if you want to become a part of the top niche brand of a TMT or a top managing team, these are the few skills that that TMT need to have. And those are: number one, human resource. We need to have a good HR team, because end of the day we know people are resource. The other resources can be substituted or can be changed. But human resource, they say, if people leave your organization, they just don't leave. They take along with them their knowledge, their experience. And where do they go? They directly go to the competition. So when we are saying about specific business literacy, we should know how to handle people. Corporate culture, need to aware what kind of cultural understanding people have in different countries, what kind of norms people set, industry specific customs, practices and procedures. We need to understand what in the industry is happening as well, in terms of technological innovation, in terms of product design, in terms of customer upgradation and needs and wants, in terms of your distribution network, in terms of your logistics, in terms of your research and development wing. All these things needs to be, people need to be aware what is happening in your industry. All the more accounting and finance, we spoke about this, important to understand in terms of how do you balance your accounts, what are your payments and receipts. Techniques, fifth, techniques for effective utilization of corporate resource. Now, do we have techniques where you can utilize the corporate resource well? Systems for assessing progress. Now, do we have templates or do we have guidelines? How do you measure this? Call it quantitative and financial performance monitors as well. Analysis methods. Now, do we at regular intervals do the review of how the progress is happening? Do we take feedback? Is there a feedback monitoring system? Tactical and strategic planning as well. That means what kind of tactics or strategies are we deploying as well. Then we need to manage skills as well. Now they say it's not just about knowing, because point is we know a lot, and sometimes just knowing doesn't suffice. That's the reason it said that there's always a gap between the planning and the execution. That means we plan a lot, but when it comes to execution, people kind of suffer. So can you bridge that gap of planning and execution? And that itself is a skill. That means the managerial skill in terms of technical know-how. Are the people are having a technical know-how? Are we also having good communication skills? From a managerial perspective, can people relate to people? For example, if they are line managers or workers, if he is not getting along with his supervisor, the first thing you need to check is the communication model. Now, are we able to communicate well with people? The interpersonal skill, are we able to relate with other people? The persuasion skill. Now, for leadership, influencing skills are important. We need to be able to perceive teams. That means influence team to get the job done. And they must be able to apply that to the teams as well. So be it the communication skills, the technical know-how, the interpersonal skills, need to able to guide the team as well. Now when we speak of skills of persuasion, and today a lot of training programs are conducted when you speak of persuasion. For selling, for example, persuasion skills are important, communication skills are important. So management must have to influence or persuade the right knowledge. They need to have the right kind of knowledge. Skills to apply that knowledge as well is important. Skills to persuade others to follow the leadership. So it's not only about having a good leadership team, but are you able to sell off the concept of your leadership. They say that people want to follow somebody whom they can rely on, trust on, and consider them to be leaders. So are you able to persuade your leadership team? Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, identified three methods of persuasion, and good managers have mastered each. So these Aristotle, he belonged to 3rd century BC, but still being applied. And the three things that he mentioned are the logos, pathos, and the ethos. The logos, pathos, and ethos. What does logos stand for? Logos is persuasion by reasoning or logic. Logos itself stands for logic. Can you influence people by a logic, by some data, by some rationale? Pathos is a persuasion by emotional appeal. We kind of go deep and delve and go to the emotional appeal. Ethos, persuasion by character. When we speak of ethos, some people, for example, are charismatic. They influence people just by the charisma, by the physical personality, by the way they speak, by the demeanor that the people carry. So Aristotle mentions, and if you want to be persuasive managers, all these three still help: the logos, the pathos, and the ethos. The three aspects. And if you want to be influencing managers to be more competitive, need to infuse all of this. So third part. So one was skill, one was knowledge. We spoke for increasing managerial competitiveness. Two was skill, and third is ability. Now ability is the critical thinking that we are speaking of, can apply concepts with great expertise. Now critical thinking or different thinking requires intellectual discipline. It requires good know-how of the subject matter. It requires good sharpened IQ. It requires good ability to grasp things fast. Elimination of biases. Now, biases or prejudices is a very common denominator in any function. To become effective, managers need to understand, am I biased for certain things? For example, people have biases for gender. People have biases for culture. People have biases for language. People have personal biases for a caste, creed, nationality, gender, whatever the case might be. But if you want to be market competitive, we need to first aware of these biases so that we can handle it effectively. Visualizing situations from a variety of perspectives. Now, if you want to have leadership roles, can you look at the same thing from different perspectives? Reflecting, reasoning, and communicating conclusions in clear and logical manner. So when we are speaking of ability or thinking skills, we are looking at, if you want to convince somebody, are you really putting it across clearly in a detailed, easy to digestible fashion in a logical way? When you are saying of TMT responsibilities, when we are looking at the top management team's responsibility from a corporate governance perspective, it is to embrace the organization vision, mission. They're looking forward how to sink in the organization's vision, mission, alignment to the objectives. Meticulously, that means detailed, oriented, analyze the internal and external environment. Internal environment is their strategies, their products, their values, their systems, their processes, and the external environment are culture, the technology, the demography, the political environment, the legal environment, so on and so forth. It sets realistic goals and objectives. So they say that goals need to be smart, need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Craft, implement, and manage tactics and strategies for continuous achievement of above average returns. So if you want to keep the R scores above, need to craft it, design it in a well planned way so that your R scores or returnable average returns needs is to be consistent basis on the above scores. The TMT must expertly execute 5 strategic management activities, and those activities are: 1. SWOT. Now, SWOT, we know people have been using SWOT for a long period of time. Now, when we say of SWOT, it stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. So when we are looking at strength and weakness, now strength and weakness gives you a detailed view of the internal things that a company has, the internal strength or the internal weakness. What opportunity and threat gives is an external orientation to it. That means based on the internal strength, what kind of external threats or opportunities do you have? So when we say from the SWOT, you can scan things, you can monitor things, and gather competitive intelligence as well. Now the strategic intent of doing a SWOT is reaffirm or re-establish short and long-term goals and objectives. Now they say SWOT need to be done on an annual basis or on a timely fashioned basis. What the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat gives us or gives the organization from a TMT perspective is, this is a kind of feedback. That means where do we stand now, and if we want to go ahead from the SWOT, also people can design a vision of, okay, these are my strengths as an organization. Based on these strengths, what kind of vision I can have to be after 20 years or after 30 years, and look into the opportunities that the company can grow. Then strategy formulation. Now if you then have the strategic intent, then strategy could be formulated. Now when we say strategic formulation, it means it translates goals and objectives into tactical and strategic action plan. That means you break down those goals into small. For example, I'll give an example, like Tata, for example. Their mission statement, Tata as a group, their mission statement or goals are to become a $400 billion company by market capitalization by the year 2020. Correct? Now that's the plan that they have designed last 2-3 years back. So we are in 16, 4 years to go. Now if they want to become a $400 billion company by market capitalization, what is it that I need to do this year? What is it in this quarter I need to do? What is it or what actions or tactics I need to do for this month? So you break those bigger things into smaller units or smaller chunks. Then once you have formulated the plan into smaller chunks, comes the time of implementation, because just plans would not suffice. We need execution. That means communicate and activate the tactical and strategic plan. That means then it's time to execute it. It's time to drill down the message to right from the top to the bottom. That means right at the grassroots level person, be it an operator, a worker, a salesman, whoever so might be, a telephone operator, need to know that their role is this, which is contributing to the larger whole. Execute it. Then is the strategic management. That means assess interim successes and failures and adjust courses and conditions. That means constant review of how things are shaping up, things of how progress have been made, what are the success stories, what all things have contributed to that success, what all things planned didn't work, what are the reasons of failure, what all factors contribute as failures, what are the learnings, can I take the learnings and apply it to the new plan, so that I am flexible. They say you need to be persistent with the goals, but can be flexible with the methods, isn't it? And that's so very true. That means that we should have goals which are ambitious, which are recharging you, elevating you, but the method that you apply to achieve those goals could be flexible. You should be able to change the methods as well. So what we have done, we have kind of sorted what we have discussed in a TMT model into a bird's eye view. We have given micro elements about it, and we'll look into this one by one. Okay, so we have a vision and mission over here. Now vision and a mission is carried out, if you see on the left hand side, they are done by visionaries. Means they look from the larger perspective. They're looking from, not now, they're looking 20 years, 30 years, 50 years down the line. They're visionaries. They design the vision mission. That means where they would like the company to be. So they could be the owners, they could be the stakeholders. They're looking forward what they need to be after a few years. So when we say vision is imagination what can be. Now understand, without a vision, evolution is difficult, isn't it? Now if we always keep on doing what we have done before, we always get what we have got before, isn't it? Suppose if you are born in India, born in the earth, if there has to be a visionary, that's the reason we have land up in moon, isn't it? Otherwise it would be on earth itself. You take off any evolution or revolution has been because they were visionaries. And mission is a statement of desire of a fulfilled vision. So vision is a direction, and mission are the path or the milestones or the goals. Then we have SWOT analysis, the strength, weakness, opportunity, threat analysis, which is done by strategic leaders or TMT. This is where the TMTs comes into picture, the top managing teams, where they look into the strengths or weakness, and they look into, with these strengths, what kind of opportunities do I have, and with kind of weakness, what kind of threats do you have. So embrace the vision and mission and analyze the environment critically. Take a feedback loop. One, if you see. Then you have a strategic intent. Two, where does it come from? Determine goals and objectives based on resource, capabilities and competencies. Based on this, form a strategic intent. Then translate goals and objectives into tactical and strategic plans. 3. That's part of strategy formulation. So when we have decided the goals, we have boiled down to strategies. What kind of tactics or moves we need to design? That's strategy formulation, step 3. Then step 4, what do? We implement it or execute it. That means we communicate and activate tactical and strategic plan. Fifth is the strategic management, wherein which we oversee the plan and monitor success and adjust courses needed. That means we look into what things are going on and we plan it accordingly, where achieve goals and objectives, see what is working, what is not working. So this is the entire model where right from the beginning till the end we are looking from a competency perspective how a business need to be run efficiently and effectively to be over RAR. Great. Then we are looking into the core operating levels. So there are few operating levels that are important, and the operating level, since it's a moving one, shows its significance. It means that strategies are significantly different at different core operating levels. They're different. It means the strategies at the business level is different at level 1 versus the conglomerate level. They're different, and you'll find how strategies they're different, and the difference we'll find it very fast. And the difference would be that in a business level strategy, this kind of strategic thinking that will exist would be one, if you see the core operating models, one, the resource based model and the IO model. If you see in a business level model, the first level corporations, the value creating and competitive advantages through marketing products and or services. Here it's about how do you market it well so that you have a better reach to the market. Your products or services are reaching to every nook and corner of the territory that you're operating in. How fast you could reach is what business competency is looking forward. They're also looking for how you can be more customer centric. Are you having a happy end customer? 2, when we are looking at a second level corporation or the conglomerate level, here the strategies are different. Here, the value creating and competitive advantages through management of portfolio of subsidiary companies. So they're looking at after 10 years or after 20 years, would there be a need so that I need to buy out certain companies? And that's the reason you'll find today companies are being taken over by other companies, isn't it? There are so many JVs that has happened in the last 20 years. You talk of steel industry, you talk of pharma industry, you talk of breweries industries, you talk of coffee industries, lots of them. We will find the bigger fish eating the smaller one. Now, one of the elements of growth is also one. It could be inorganic growth or it could be an organic growth. So, one, when we are looking at second level strategies, we are creating a value creating and competitive advantage through. Objective is same, but the methodology is management of portfolio of subsidiary companies. That means if I am taking over a company, if an organization is taking over a company or forming a JV, am I looking at synergies? Am I looking at portfolios or SBUs or strategic business units? Are they growing in tandem with business needs? Now what happens is if organizations just take the entire growth only in perspective, that is not going to suffice, because within that product portfolio, not every product or not every segment has grown equally. For example, if it's a culinary product, if it's a culinary or a food industry, somebody is into bakery products and chocolate products. If examples like Elana's, example like Puritos or Pillsbury. Now, all these companies, if suppose take one company, if Puritos, for example, has grown 25% last year. Now that 25% definitely is not equal in all segments. You call it a bakery industry, uh, the cake industry, the chocolates might be different. Now when you're looking from a conglomerate perspective, or if you're looking from a perspective and they want to buy out certain companies, they need to be clear about it. What is the growth of individual segments? Where they want to have a JV? What are the more profitable markets for them? Where is the ROI which is happening more? Where are growth opportunities which are more than the other? This is where we have a conglomerate where the strategies are different. So when we look from a business level model, we are looking at achieving sustainable competitive advantage, which means that offering products or services that are distinctive, that also provide profit maximization opportunities for the firm. Now from a business dynamics, now if you think from a business level model, from a business level model, the objective is simple: make profits, make the customer happy. Here it's about the focus on maximizing profits. So we're looking at, it's more on the product focus and the customer focus. So for methods of achieving the business level objective, or the first level objective, are: one, uniqueness of product and service. We know that if a product is unique, if it is special, if it is different, you will find that your product is being sold more, and so will be a profit. Two, added or special components. That means, what is the add-on that your product or service has which the other product don't have? For example, if you call the mobile service, so people have launched, Airtel has launched, for example, 4G. Now 4G, when they launched it, was an add-on. It gave great speed of data, and that was a real value add. So what do you have? Something extra. Do you also have the first mover advantage? Three, lower cost levels. Now it's not only about a first mover advantage, but can you give at a cost that is affordable by the customers? Three, preferential delivery. So it's also about, you might have a great product, you might have a value added product, you might have an economical product, but is your product reachable, accessible? Is your product easily gettable, be it from the retail or the virtual platform? Is it really accessible? Is important. It provides customers a motive to purchase from a specific firm. It proves difficult for competitors to duplicate or imitate. So if your product is niche, if your product is different, then the competitors can't replicate it, isn't it? Or it will take time. Now, in today's world, the lead time, that means the second person will copy the same product, the lead time is very less. Earlier, it was like 4-5 years when the company could not come in with the same product. But today you'll find within few months, people are there with the same kind of product or technology. And that's the reason you will have these patents coming in. So that's the reason if you see in industries like a KPO or a pharma industries, wherein things are patented, or products are patented, or processes are patented. So if you have a product that is patented, for example, Viagra, sildenafil, the chemical formula, when it was launched by Pfizer, it was a product patented. So they had a leverage period to market the product across the globe for at least 2 years, and that was exclusive rights. So do you have something which is different, a value add, and is it reachable to your audience is important. So when we say of business level strategy formulation is guided by the firm's competitiveness model as well. That means that when we say of competitive model, few things come in very fast. One, low cost leadership. That means, do we have products that are available at a low cost, considered at least expensive or best value provider? Do we have differentiation? That means, is your product different from the competitor in the offering, or is it just a me too product? Is it just a vanilla product? And then narrow market catering. That means we don't want a product that is only catering to a niche band. We want the product to expand to a larger place, larger volume, because it gives volume sales or volume reach. Okay, so achieving sustainable competitive advantage, when you look at the level 2, that is conglomerate level, means creating a portfolio of synergetic businesses. What does it mean? It means that subsidiary companies, now when we are seeing a conglomerate, we are looking at how companies can either buy out a different company, can look for JV or joint venture based on the kind of product portfolio it has. So subsidiary companies, when they are taking over, need to be beneficial when they provide synergistic benefits. So we need to look at how it synergizes them with their vision. That means shared knowledge between subsidiary companies, operating systems, the facilities provided within the subsidiary functions, or contact networks as well. So one database for one subsidiary definitely could be used by other databases as well. So this cross infiltrating also helps for the organization to grow together as well. So when we are looking at conglomerate level strategies, those are the conglomerate level strategies have options such as JVs or joint ventures, 1, 2, corporate partnering, 3, other type of collaborative actors. What is corporate partnering? Corporate partnering is they form an association in the host. In some country where they want to operate, they kind of, it's not a JV, but it's a kind of franchisee model, is a corporate partnership, where they partner into some alliance, or it could be some very fragile collaborative business as well. So however, the most common strategies involved when you speak about collaborative business, level 2 businesses, are acquisitions and divestitures of operating companies. A lot of times acquisition means complete takeovers, wherein the strategies can be changed, the basic composition of the parent company, simply by diversifying into new lines of businesses. Now if you see, corporate diversification through acquisitions are divided into related diversifications. That means those that are closely related to companies currently in the portfolio, like frequent successes, or unrelated diversification. So it could be one directly related. For example, a company is into automobiles. Now if they are taking over a company who are manufacturing accessories of automobile, for example spare parts of automobile, it's directly related. They are kind of getting a resource company as well for the main company. So they're directly related. Sometimes they could be unrelated. For example, Kingfisher, when we say they were into breweries, the United Breweries, they are into liquors. But you'll find them into airlines as well. You find in other segments as well, which might be unrelated. Tata, for example, multi-conglomerates actually. Those that are significantly different from previously owned subsidiaries. So when we have Tatas, right from power to cement to IT to chemicals to energy, so they're conglomerate in different sense. They're not related at all, yet they're kind of different. Okay, so if you're looking at the session from a corporate governance perspective, the point of emphasis, one is the RAR, the return on investment The core operating models are business level and the conglomerate level when we are speaking of corporate governance. Two, the competitive models relate to business level competencies and include strategies such as cost leadership, differentiation, and niche marketing as well. Goals are a general description of a performance aim, and objectives are the specific target within a goal or goods. So what we have spoken about in corporate governance is, first we have defined what corporate governance is. It's a set of rules, procedures, how, and corporate governance is made up of directors, the stakeholders, the top body, where they want to direct their organization based on two functions. One, two layers. One, the business level, the objective there is making profits and making the customer happy. Two, it could be conglomerate level businesses where they're looking at acquisitions, joint ventures, and looking at business holistically as well, or the bird's eye view, where they can synergize together. So when we are looking corporate governance perspective, they look from both levels, how they could integrate these things and work towards the progress of the organization. This is what we have discussed so far as far as corporate governance is concerned. Correct. So now we have, in the coming 10-15 minutes or so, or 20 minutes or so, what we will do is we will lay a foundation about our topic about business ethics as well. So we'll lay the foundation of ethics in CSR or corporate social responsibility as well, and when we will also discuss in the next session, we will kind of get into details. But today we will kind of, in the coming 15-20 minutes or so, we will kind of get into it. Okay, so what does ethics mean? Now ethics, we have, in fact, as a student you might have read ethics in moral science, correct? When we are saying ethics, what does it really mean? Now we also need to understand, ethics from the standpoint of business as well. We are not speaking only from a moral perspective. So when we say ethics, it's derived from the Greek word ethikos, meaning character or manner. So if you want to get a small backdrop or history about where it is coming from, it is derived from the Greek word ethikos, means character. It is signs of character of a person expressed as right or wrong conduct of action. So whatever behaviors that are being demonstrated, ethics kind of say this is right, this is wrong. So ethics can be also said as code of conduct as well. For example, in a family, let's take from a singular unit family. Now family also has ethics. Now ethics in a family run in generation, that sometimes it comes from a cultural lineage as well. Now these ethics, when you speak of family perspective, are not written down, they are not documented. They go by word of mouth, from grandfather to father, father to son to grandson. They go by word of mouth. From an organizational perspective, this is not word of mouth, they are documented code of conduct. So set of moral principles prescribing code explains what is good and right or what is bad and wrong. So when we are looking to meaning of ethics, and if you want to plot it through, it is the character of the man decided by conduct of a person, which is guided and influenced by leads to a series of action. Now, based on what a person's character is, he has a set of behaviors. That means series of action taken together or considered as good, right, or wrong based on moral values. Now, this is known as moral judgments. Now, in any society that you walk in, there are certain values that the society has which they don't consider to be ethical. For example, killing somebody. Universal law, not good, isn't it? Morally conducted wrong. Killing somebody. Yet, but there are certain situations that people look into in what context the killing happened. For example, if you are in war, killing an enemy, that's a different context. If you are killing somebody to defend yourself, it has a different meaning. But killing somebody for personal benefit, for revenge, is morally and ethically, globally considered to be wrong. Now, when we are saying conduct of a person, by which we can judge again, there are certain moral standards which are required, which is part of the conduct rule. So, we have a character of a man, which is decided by the conduct of the person involved, which leads to a series of action or the behaviors based on which it is considered right or wrong. Now, if you see, ethics can be termed as the signs of character of the person expressed as right or wrong conduct of action. Now, we know that right and wrong primarily are very relative, isn't it? Right for some could be wrong for some. But when you are looking from an ethical perspective or moral perspective, they by and large remain the same. Yes, they are different in terms of topographic locations, or regional differences might be there, or national differences must be there. There are certain ethics that people consider it to be either right or wrong. So if you see objectives of ethics, now we will be looking at ethics from a perspective of business dimension. So the objective of ethics, now why ethics are laid down in the history of human race? It studies human behavior and makes evaluative assessment about them as moral or immoral. So ethics kind of portrays a person to be moral or immoral. It establishes moral standards and norms of behavior. Society kind of lays certain rules that people consider it to be moral or immoral. It makes judgment about human behavior based on these standards and norms. So people are kind of branded, or people are kind of labeled. For example, if you have done a robbery and if you are put behind bars, can that label a person as being ethical or non-ethical, or moral or immoral? Yes, for sure. Very difficult then to change the perception of a murderer or a robber, because he's kind of branded it that way. It prescribes moral behavior and makes recommendations about how to or how not to behave. So they kind of give behavioral insight. That means in terms of action, what you should do, what you should not do. Now certain times they are religiously guided as well, but not always. It expresses an opinion or attitude about human conduct in general. We're looking at the human perspective in general. So business ethics, what does it really mean? It means that it compromises principles and standards that guide behavior in the world of business. So we are looking at it from a perspective of how businesses are run from a business perspective, not only from a society perspective. According to John Donaldson, Business ethics can be described as a systematic study of moral matters pertaining to business, industry, or related activities, institution or practices and beliefs. It is the systematic handling of values in business and industry. What the ethics that we are referring to, or we are going to study from now and to the next session as well, is how these values we are going to apply from the conduct of business. That means, how do you conduct business practices? How do you communicate with your customer? How do you deal with your internal customers? What kind of code of conduct are you going to have with different genders coming into the same organization? So what kind of moral values we are taking from the workplace is what we will looking forward to. So views on relationship between business and ethics, if you see, Unitarian views, or more commonly accepted views, being business and morality cannot be separated, and it must play by the rules of ethics of the community. Important to understand, when we say business is to make profits, but if it kind of digresses from the fact of ethics, then we know in the long run the company doesn't exist. Take example Satyam Computers. It just kind of disappeared in one fine day. Because if ethics are not being met, you take individual examples, big time stories, or even organizations, they just don't survive if you don't have ethics to back that up. So we have a moral structure, we have a business and moral ethics. So they are the business ethics that follow suit. That was the Unitarian view. Now if you see the separatist view of ethics, it means it's proposed by Adam Smith, the renowned American psychologist, and Milton Friedman, that businesses is a distinct entity and does not include ethics and morality. Now, based on observations of how businesses are run, a lot of time ethics takes a backseat. That means the prime intention, according to the separatist views, a lot of businesses happen first, the intention and motive is to make profit. Even if compromise needs to be done on ethics or moral values, people do it. And that has been observed as well a lot. So separatist view mention that they are distinct and separate. It need not necessarily has to be hand in glove. So if they need not necessarily be hand in glove. Now we are more interested in how do we integrate these two views. That means they are proposed by Talcott and Parson. How are we going to integrate? That means when we have business on one hand, this is a good slide to look into. If you on the left hand side, the purple block represented by business. Now business is where get influenced by the market systems and the government, and we have the moral values and ethics, which is guided by law on one hand, the legal structure, and we also have the society in terms of religious, cultural influence. Now the shaded portion becomes the business ethics portion, the portion where these two kind of overlap each other. So the point is, when we are looking from a business perspective, these need to integrate. We cannot have a separatist view or unitarist view. They need to have some kind of overlap or areas they kind of influence each other. So when we say of business ethics, when business people speak about business ethics, they usually mean one of the three things. So when people who are into business or who run the organizations or who are profit makers, and when they speak of ethics, they primarily are speaking of three things, and those are: one, avoid breaking the criminal law in one's work related activity. So when we are saying of ethics, they actually mean they should not break the law or the criminal law more so as they are dealing with it. Avoid action that may result in civil lawsuit against the company. So we don't want any strategies that they are going to infringe or disturb the legal laws so that a suit is drawn against them. For example, if you are going to infringe patents, so that might invite a suit against you or a lawsuit against you. Third, avoid action that are bad for the company's image. So anything that tarnishes the company's image, you should not do. So three things. One, should not do criminal work. Three, should not do anything that the company gets into a lawsuit. Or three, should not tarnish or damage the company's image. So businesses are specifically concerned with these three things since they involve loss of money and company's reputation. So even when we are looking at these three dimensions, the objective also remains from how are they looking from perspective as well. We will also look into relationship between law and moral standards as well. How are law and moral standards related? So if you see, laws and moral standards overlap to a certain extent for sure. That means law represent a minimum set of standards for producing a desired behavior. Ethics often represent a standard that exceeds the legal minimum. Now, generally it is said that the law represents the minimum standards, but when we speak of ethics, we are looking at something beyond the law as well. For example, the law might say killing is forbidden or robbery is forbidden. But when we are looking from an ethics standards, we are looking beyond that as well. That means we are looking at telling lies, for example, or communicating the right things at the right time. There might not be a law regarding it. For example, you might read in the newspapers a lot, like for example, Volkswagen has recalled 1.2 lakh cars from the market. The reason they have found a defect in one of their engine parts. Now they know that without withdrawing also the cars could have sold off. But it requires ethics as well, that they don't want to give customer a devalued product, or if after some time the brand name or the brand image is getting tarnished because of the complaints they are getting, then they don't want that to happen. So better is recall it, and that's part of ethical standard that the company has. Or sometimes, for example, Cadbury's did this. Cadbury's almost a decade back, they found that there was a fault in their manufacturing processes where they found that certain toxic elements they were found in chocolates which were above the standard level, and a lot of complaints also popped up as well. Now it is important at this juncture to raise their hand and accept mistakes. That's part of ethical norm. See, we are humans, we can make mistakes, but the point is how many admit it. It's important that admitting mistakes, it's also part of ethical standards as well, and we need to understand it. So common ethical acts could be lying, misreporting, stealing, break-taking, falsifying, drugs, or alcohol abuse. So these are few ethical things that come over here. So we will continue this session on ethics and standards and other things as well. If you have any query regarding this, be it on corporate governance, or ethics so far, please drop a mail to ISBM. We will be more than happy to respond to you. We are waiting for your mail. Till then, have a great learning time. Keep exploring, keep enjoying, keep learning, keep upgrading yourself. Have a fantastic day ahead. Till then, this is